Hello people, and welcome back to part 14 of Ilos, our modded Cities Skylines build. I hope you're having a wonderful day. And my word, things have changed since the last time we were in Ilos. A few things have happened. So during the last stream, we came and set up this wonderful little basketball complex, including a little kind of amusement county fair sort of thing. A little bit of Green Cities action and some of the concert stuff as well, which the concert stuff will change, of course, as the main area moves through its levels. So this will be changed going forward, and some great little tram and walkability designs happening outside the stadium too, with these great little planters. Had a great time putting this together. So thank you so much for all support on the streams, and a little kind of food court and some hotel action happening down here as well near the stadium. And then of course you guys would have seen a few Candy's wonderful collaboration where she built this incredible medical center, apartment complex and kind of dirt racing track, all within one of the Margrid frames, and cannot describe how amazing this is. If you Candy absolutely nailed the Ilos vibes. And how nice is the Margrid looking now, right? Starting to grow. Ilos is starting to grow, everyone. However, in today's episode, for the first time, we are going to be moving away from the Margrid, just because I need to build something different. The Margrid project is very slowly filling out, but today I want to head into rural Ilos, which I've very much been looking forward to, building for the first time in some US southwestern rural vibes. So this is where we're going to be working today, okay, in this little valley with the river, so we can finally work with some waterfront action, even though it's going to be fairly overgrown around here, and bring something in to complement the Walt and Jesse props that are hanging out over here, okay? This is little cool Easter egg that we dropped in during the streams, but lots of nice ideas in store today. However, because we're starting a new area, we of course need some new highway connectivity, and to decide how we're going to do that, let's go and find a real-life, rural Arizonan highway intersection, shall we? Okay guys, and welcome to Google Earth. So of course this is our main inspiration for this series, right? We are working with Phoenix and the relentless and interesting Margrid patterns. However, as we come down the, I believe this is an interstate or a highway, the little 10 symbol, or that symbol with the 10 on it rather. Do let me know what that is called, but we can see a very basic rural Arizona highway exit here, okay? So really basic slip ramps. We can check our lane mathematics at the top, where we come into 2 lanes, and there's opportunities here for some intersection marking tools to create fillers. So really basic intersections and some lane mathematics to take note of here. This is nice and easy. Then there's also opportunities to develop some highway out here as well if we want. But nice, simple, easy inspiration for a highway interchange in rural Arizona. So there's our inspiration for the highway exit. Let's build some rural US southwestern vibes, shall we? So of course, as always, I'm going to start by giving everything a little forest brush in the spaces we're going to be working today. And this should be wonderful. And then we can come out from this highway exit here. So ideally, I would like this highway ramp to eventually hook in with the single point urban interchanges that are happening over here. So let's make sure that we draw out a line snapped to 180 degrees, and then use this as the point in which to build our highway exit here, and that's going to keep us perfectly in line with the Margrid over there, so it can eventually hook down into this one as the city grows and expands around it. So I want to come ahead and grab one of my US 2 lane roads now. They're going to come up by 10 meters. Again, snap into that road guideline of the dirt road that we've already set up here. Okay, and let's bring that straight across. That's going to be wonderful. Then we're going to come down off of this guideline to the 20 marker, put this time back on the ground again, draw that out by 10, and then we can give a little connection into there. Likewise again over here, let's make sure we delete this road now so it doesn't mess with the guideline. Then we can snap out this one, find the 20 marker, come out by 10, and then we can slope it on both sides using Network Multi-Tool, of course. Get our slope function, grab the top node in the bottom, and then just slope these out. We're nice and even on each side. And then we're going to upgrade into a forced elevation into these sections, which should help us with the aesthetic a little bit more. And then we can soften these out. That's going to give us a very basic bridge over the highway, okay? It's going to do a job for us. It's already looking pretty rural, right? So I'm just going back into our highway stuff. We're going to grab the highway roads and we're going to come into our one lane variations. So I'm just going to align with the road guidelines with some freeform. And then start bringing in those very wide, curvy and flowy curves that we saw in Google Earth. And as we come in to the main road, we're going to switch into 2-lane. And then we can do some node controller here with some intersection marking tool stuff to help create a little more interest and personality around the junctions onto the main road. And we'll keep that flowing back. So we can have a little chat already about what's going to happen with node controller. Go and widen it all out. Let's go ahead and hide all the markings, straighten everyone up. And then we'll go for a nice offset to the point where none of the green frames turn red. Otherwise we have node issues at that point. See how the bottom one here is now turned red? Just want to make sure that no one's like that. And then let's straighten everyone off. So I know that this road here on the right now is going to eventually turn into this little 2-lane country road, which we'll be using today, to meander through the desert and into the rural valley. So plenty of decoration opportunities down here, of course, with rural power lines and fencing, cactus, overgrowth. It's going to be great. Cannot wait. Very excited for this build today, everyone. I'm also going to upgrade this road here between the bridge and the intersection to be asymmetrical, so 2 lanes facing in, 1 coming out. Again, referring to the configurations on Google Earth for this. So now we can come in with our fillers. Okay, this is going to be really easy. So that'll give us the space for our filler, again, which we can identify. Using Google Earth, if we want to offset some of the lines a little bit too, and give it a slight corner radius. That should be fine. Again, there's going to be decoration opportunities from the end of the episode too. And then we can just trim up at the from and to points now, which will give us a nice smooth looking marked intersection. Cool. So we can also do our traffic manager lane connectors there just to make sure everyone's going to be flowing the right way. But it's really simple. It's just an island on one side with no markings in the middle. Of course, once it's decorated up with lights on the island and overgrowth and fencing and highway art, we should be looking a little more settled here. So now that we have this one in, let's complete the exact same process on the opposite side. So we can hook everyone in and then start heading down into the valley today. Okay, so this is going to give us a really basic Arizona-inspired service interchange. That's going to be able to feed our rural area. Okay, it's going to sit a nice distance away from the mark grid as well. So that's really kind of a big thing for me, is creating a sense of distance when moving into rural style builds. You know, you want that distance so it does feel rural. It's not near your main metropolis or kind of main downtown. We are somewhat out in the sticks here. Okay, wonderful. Let's start heading down this road, shall we? So now let's start coming into the main town. Let's bring this little 2-lane country road further down, making sure we're snapping to angle and road length here, most importantly. And then we can start to bring in some lighter freeforms. Definitely going to want my topography option on for this, so just so we can see where we're sitting. So waterfront opportunities today. Definitely not going to have kind of piers or restaurants down here though. Very much staying away from that vibe, but we can use the water to our advantage. And then at some point I do want to switch back into my little American roads, so let's go for about here as a sensible barometer perhaps. That's going to be good for me. And then let's start mapping out the main spine of this town, if you will. Okay. So again, I think we can start here and then everything can start to cluster around this shoreline. Again, so we'll just clear out everything that we don't need. Now let's start placing our first assets. So first time I've ever built in this style. And it's a fun one to build in, but it can be quite challenging and easily broken without the right assets in either. Okay, so there we go. Have our main road through the town. Let's now start placing some assets. So of course we've been on the workshop and found a whole bunch of kind of rural looking assets. King Leno has a collection called The Other Side of Town, which is very much this sort of vibe, okay? So get on board with that. Some gas stations in here, some kind of old looking food markets. But the first thing I want to place is actually a unique building. It's this one right here, the Rump Motel, which is going to sit pretty much here, right as we come into town. Now, of course, it's a little bit clean looking at the minute, as are the roads, which is where our poorly maintained parking lot road park is going to come in tremendously handy for detailing these sorts of spaces, okay? So I'm going to have a parking lot that comes up this side. And then with road anarchy on, I want to now have a little second car park that comes out and off of the back of this. And let's just align the assets so that car park can sit flush. I might also want to just extend that out a touch as well there. Okay, and then this can now become poorly maintained service road. And then we can get some car parking in here. Definitely factor in some disabled spaces up at the front as well. And then we'll go for some of these shattered angled parkings for a change, okay? And then we'll also do some in this one. So now the next thing to do is to really start looking at decals for your roads, pavements and stuff, because this is really going to affect how the build looks. You know, these areas are not maintained, the concrete is scuffed up. Okay, there's sand beginning to pool in various different locations kind of around this part of town. Okay, let's dirty up some of that. Let's go ahead and grab some of these cracked textures as well. Okay, and we're going to have a little kind of spice discussion already. We are getting quite spicy quite quickly in today's episode, everyone, so apologies if it is a little bit too much for you to bear with. Okay, let's go for some more of these big stain decals down the road as well. So we'll slowly piece together all these assets, right? So already looking a little bit dirtier and a little bit grimier, isn't it? But there's more that we can do. Let's come in to find it and find our fencing. And we're after the after dark fencing here. Now I do have a chain link fence here, so I'm going to come into prop line tool and turn on my linear fence fill. Now what I really want to do here is respect the flora. So I'm going to come in and grab some of these larger bushes, and then I want these to very much sit against back edge of the fencing, okay? So really thick, quite dense overgrowth. Some lusher, leafier trees in here too. Alongside lots and lots of saguaros, which we will be using very liberally today. And then let's definitely grab some of those brown grasses as well, just to start poking through this side of the fence now as it borders the car park. And then definitely some of the harsher trees in here, like the hardwoods and the occasional palm with lots of mixed in California short palm. I mean, we can already see that we need power, so let's prepare that power line. Now let's just snap into the grid so we can keep it running with the main road, because again, it's going to be a really important aesthetic of the town, right? So we'll have our little rural power line here. You can jump over the road at various points if it needs to and head on down there. I will go and hook that in off camera. And then we can start to feed off these little power connections into this area here. Okay, so a very brief spice sample of what we're going to be working with and looking at in rural Ilos, okay? It's exciting, isn't it? It's exciting. Totally new vibes, everyone. Totally new vibes for the channel today. However, I will go and get the power hooked in, and then we can start having a look at detailing up the riverfront and placing in some more Arizona-style rural desert accommodation. So let's continue to add in some roads. I'm going to be using the 2-lane country lanes here. Really, any sort of road that's quite plain looking, not too many markings on it, is going to be really easy to fit into this style with lots of cracks and dirt on it. So I'm going to run with this one. Okay, let's come on to an angle snap here as well, and a little bit of road length. And we'll start to create some shapes and designs around the back of essentially the front of town, right? We want this to come here. That's going to be great. Let's keep it going for maybe 10 more tiles, and then this will meander back down into the main road if we can, which it does look like we can indeed. Okay, so thinking of other kind of rural assets, you know, what works here. Let's dive into the world of water towers for the first time. All right, definitely a water tower around here. Of course, it's going to want some water coming out of him. So we could compare this to the vanilla one. And I think definitely the wooden water tower lends itself more towards the rural theme, but I am a fan of the vanilla one. But we'll leave it in and see how it grows on us. Okay. Again, there's opportunities to start discussing the initial sort of detailing palette, right? Let's bring in some of these fencings around the back. Lots of this kind of chain link fencing today is going to be very much appreciated for bringing the vibe and the area together. And we'll probably have to make a new forest brush today as well, I imagine, just to help differentiate it away from the Margrid overgrowth that we've been using for such a long time. So lots of these grasses in. Some of these little aloe vera looking plants as well. So, you know, we'll mix and match in a new forest brush using palms and saguaros, dense overgrowth, lots of very leafy trees in here today. This is going to be a very detail focused episode. The build itself today isn't going to be that big, but lots of new things to discuss and working with a vibe like this, okay? Some fan palms in there too, and already some walkability back and two between the new road networks that are now starting to grow up in this area. And no snapping here is going to be helpful as we come through, and possibly even a spattering of old broken nature reserve fencing, which is very much going to be a vibe in today's episode, alright? Let's get some of these little palm plants knocking around too. A couple of vanilla bushes, why not? Not adverse to them. Smaller bushes. Definitely some vanilla overgrowth would be welcome here too. Especially the thinner, more spread out ones. More than acceptable. And hopefully now that just complements the vibe a little bit more, right? It's going to be an overgrown one today. I think lots and lots of overgrowth is going to be extremely helpful. Alright, wonderful news. Come back into another road now. Let's go for a 1 unit dirt road. I'm going to bring this out on an angle. Now we do have some new housing assets courtesy of the workshop again, where we have some of these US trailers, which is very much an aesthetic and a vibe that we're a fan of. So we're going to drop a few of these in. Now a fair few of the level 1 vanilla assets will also be quite welcome in here alongside some of the university stuff. So we can go for maybe like one of these guys. Let's grab, yeah, so stuff like this, and you know, there's some of these that have kind of broken down cars outside of them already that kind of help decorate them. Definitely not the European suburbia stuff, stay away from that over here. Some of these little shed looking ones, some of the ones that we very rarely actually get to use. Okay, so we can start to piece together an initial residential palette. Let's start bringing in some of these trailers to work next to each other. And we also have some props with these as well. Go ahead and copy in the trailer in this point. Let's have one up against the road as well if we can. There we go. So let's place a few of these as you see fit, essentially. So here's our props. We've got like a little Slumville washing line, so we can drop this out the side, and some sort of old tyre marks and an outhouse as well. Plus some old sort of like oil drums and little plastic barrels. So plenty of detail opportunities in and around these guys today. And again, sorry we're moving so slowly, but this is the episode, everyone. More walkability, perhaps some new fence in here. Let's try to go for something a little more different. How about a brick wall? Fairly small though, see if we can find something else. And again, I think a stretch of parallel nature reserve fencing with that same sort of overgrowth, that lovely palette that we're going to discover. So again, once you kind of have an overgrowth palette in, feel free to come and grab it with Move It, and then just turn it the opposite way. so you're not getting exact kind of mimicked patterns. And then you can essentially just move your overgrowth about into the same area here, okay? And again, I definitely want these little rural power lines to continue flowing through the town today. Come ahead and make sure that we grab them. Okay, so that's going to develop a little vibe for us here, isn't it? I do like that. So let's come in and discuss yet more detailing. Let's have a look at the riverbank now as we come into town. So I'm thinking a little low sound barrier, something, yeah, the little crash barrier, quite the cheap and nasty one is what we want, just kind of made out of flimsy metal, not any kind of significant concrete structure. You know, kind of remembering where we are here. So let's have that running along the length of the road, and let's start looking at some big old chungus rocks now, because we're playing with some of the workshop, of course. We can bring these in and around the water. And I don't think I'm totally averse to those rocks, right? That's going to be a happy time. We'll drop in some smaller little satellite rocks as well here. Possibly a vanilla one will be acceptable here as well, I think. Alright, that's not going to be too bad, is it? Let me get my forest brush set up, and then we'll be able to paint out a lot of this area now with the brush rather than manually placing. And fantastic, we now have our forest brush made up, so we can start to splatter little bits of this between the water and the rocks. And then we'll grab, again, some more of these slightly denser, more overgrown palettes, introduce at a couple of different places along the road itself. And hopefully now this should just give us a nice little overgrown riverbank as we come through. Lots of cactus, palms poking up, some leafier trees as well. So actually I was kind of reading up about Arizona's kind of flora and fauna and general geography and just kind of information about the state and the landscape. So when it rains in Phoenix and Arizona, at least the rain comes off the mountains and would normally run into the desert and disperse and evaporate and so on and so forth. However, the canal structure that runs through the desert actually stops the water from being able to penetrate further into the desert. Therefore, it creates these natural forests on one side of the canal that run all the way through Arizona, just where the water pools up from the mountains. It's a really cool, quite surreal sight to see. I'll try and remember to throw a picture of it up on screen. So we can certainly bring in some of those vibes as well, if we want to. Okay? But this is coming together nicely, I feel now. Definitely want to start bringing in some more of these, some of the College Park assets as well. Yep, this sort of stuff. I definitely want another road that comes up through here as well. But I think at this point we will move down into dirt again to start bring home those rural vibes here, okay? And we'll have this one back around this way, and it can flank around that side of the town. Move up some of the layers as well. We won't go too high into the valley here today, but we can play with some different layers. I am still getting the error code as well from the mod. I'm not sure what's causing it. So let's make a little kind of courtyard here now, right? Something where our services can sit a little bit of commercial and a little bit of detailing as well. Indeed, sad news already. Someone has already died at the motel, which is quite appropriate, right? These places are usually pretty shady. So good to see that it's true to life a little bit, okay? So let's come in and make a little strip mall here. Okay, something of a town centre where everything converges and we can do some different things here. So I'm going to come in with my poorly maintained road again. We're going to use the service road for this. And then we'll have this one-sided poorly maintained parking. Again, I think we'll stick with the kind of angled car parking spaces for this part of town. And then we can drop in a lot of the assets that we've got from the workshop here. Such as the little ready-to-roll tyres, some of these bond shops, generic storefront, maybe like a nasty little food market. Pawn shop will go nicely in here as well. Okay, and then again, once this is in, our detailing pallets can come back into the area. There's options for walkability here, back and to between, of course. Little stretches of shattered old nature reserve fencing. It's going to be a favourite today, isn't it? Get ready for me to say old shattered nature reserve fencing at least 500 times today. And all our little brown overgrowths and weeds and saguaros can come through here, and hopefully start to contribute some nice vibes into the area. Let's definitely get a couple of palms in there as well. Okay, but I think we can certainly get on board with that, right? Of course, we want to detail up the back end of it there today, but that's going to be easily done. Yeah, let's search for a gas station. Let's go for a petrol station here now. So we do have a BP one here. There's also a Shell version as well. But on its own, this asset isn't massively rural looking, but we can use Surface Painter to get rid of the concrete texture on the bottom by painting in some sand. Let's give it kind of a general shape, and then again, a lot of our decals off the workshop, and there's many different ways you can do these. And there's lots of different decals and kind of shattered patterns on the workshop you can go with. Bringing some dirt and some mud around here and let it just become a kind of a little bit nasty, and cars are leaving back out onto the road maybe where it's been driven over several times. And a lot of this dry grass decal around the base of it as well is going to really help everything fit in a little bit more, okay? And then we can definitely bring in another rural dirt road behind this using the 1 unit one to allow the placement of some further assets. I also think a fair bit of vanilla industry would also be appropriate here too. Let's turn off our snapping with the fine road tools. Allow us to come here, and then it eventually can come back into our snapping and we'll hook back into the road a little bit like that. Let's get a little market out here too. Let's also dive into the world of generic industry. We can partner a few of these together. So you can move it to combine the little generator with the warehouse and spin them around with move it. And again, that sand texture with Surface Painter is just going to help reinforce the vibes a little bit more. Just paint out what you need. Do leave some concrete in, but the less of it, the better, especially in this sort of vibe that we're looking at today. Okay, so we can now start to form these, and the Surface Painter texture can now go flush, and there's opportunities again for walkability, just so we can see people moving back and between the different street layers now. I think I'm going to be initially happy with that. So let's have a look at a police service. We are playing with the little small suburban police department, which I think is going to be an appropriate choice here. And again, we'll use move it just to bring it onto the corner of the road, and we can have a little police station in here now as well. Very nice indeed. Let's come back into fire services. Again, the volunteer station, I feel, is going to be an appropriate asset here. So you're going to start to generate the feeling and the vibe here, okay, with people going to the strip mall, a little bit of a main street town centre sort of thing. Some gas stations, some rundown commercial, and little bits of overgrowth, and of course vibes that can be expanded during our detailing time lapse today. So the next thing I want to have a look at is actually a church build. It's only going to be a very little kind of small rural one. Again, we're going to come in with the rural road. We're going to grab the 2-lane country road right now. We'll bring that out there. Again, there's some stuff we can do. Node controller for hiding and getting everyone aligned, and stretch this out a little bit, and we can do some detailing here today as well during our larger nodes. Okay, so the configuration of the church, let's bring this road up a touch further, and then we'll give ourselves a platform in which to place the church, of course, which is in our park area. Let's go for right there. Of course, softening terrain is going to be tremendously helpful, allowing this build to settle into the landscape a little bit more. Let's come and soften those back edges out. Okay, take a little bit of the sting out of it if you like. We can have that sit slightly raised up above the rest of the village, and that's going to be a really nice kind of mini skyline, right? The spire or the steeple of the church there. I'm going to be happy with that. And of course, these are going to work really nicely with our realistic working cemeteries, which don't actually affect the terrain, which is tremendously helpful. We can maybe drop in 4 of these. Oh dear. That hearse did just spawn in the air. What else am I gonna... Oh yes, the hearses do spawn. Okay, it does slightly affect the terraforming, but we can bear with that, right? we can deal with it. I get lots of nature reserve fencing around the edge of this thing to give a border to the graveyard, and indeed the back end of the church. Just bring it around roughly for right now until we know how the terrain is going to sit. And we can maybe bring this back down towards the main road here. That's going to be really nice, isn't it? Again, lots of our favourite overgrowth pallets in and around back end of this graveyard, just to give it a little bit of shelter. It's going to be more than appreciated, I think, isn't it? So we can definitely get involved with having a little church up on here as well today. I love how this sits within the town. It's a really cute way of using a church, I think. A couple of little working cemeteries out front. Very nice indeed. So we're getting some heavy worker demands for our new commercial, which is fine. As we come into adding residential into this build today, these will become satisfied. Which we'll do during our detailing time-lapse. However, the last thing I want to work on before we have a look at that detailing time-lapse is what's going to happen kind of further down the valley. So I'm thinking again, we're going to bring the road out. We're going to use the little 2-lane country road for this, since it's definitely a repeating favourite here. I'm going to keep this going out of town now. Again, lots of overgrowth pallets can come in this direction. And what I want to form, essentially, up here is a little old, ready-to-be-abandoned ore area. So this isn't going to be Ilos' main ore pit. We will do like a big Arizona-inspired mining quarry somewhere out in the desert. But just as a part of this little town build today, perhaps just an ore industry main building with a small ore mine, a medium, a storage unit, just so we have a justification for this town here. You know, maybe back in the old gold rush, back in the old Wild West, this town was established to come and search for gold down in the valley. And now they have the old, knackered, ready to be decommissioned gold mine still up in the hills. So this is definitely something that we can bring into the area today. So let's come in and plop down a ore industry main building, which is going to give us Steve Goodwin mineral storage. Thanks so much for all your support, Brassack. Really appreciate everything you do. I'm Patreon in the Discord, mate. And let's just roughly bring this up into the hills. Those final configurations and patterns can always be changed. But this will be fine for right now. Okay, wonderful news. Let's come back into the generic industry. And then we're going to want to start placing in some roads for these guys to sit on. So again, we want them sort of facing into the mountain, right? So that's going to be very much an important part of our orientation. Let's draw in a road first of all. So I think the aesthetic of having the animated crane here is going to be quite nice. Again, checking from all angles that we're not too horrendous here. You know, you can barely even see it once it's in and amongst all the trees and the cactus anyway. It does hide itself quite naturally. Okay, so we'll have one processing building. And then we have some more mine opportunities here with these small underground ones, which I think is what I'm going to run with. So again, we'll come back into ore. Let's go for small underground ore mine. We'll have one of those. And then let's maybe do something on the next layer up if we can, just so we're not all on the same axis. Bring another little holding frame road for us, and let's go for, let's maybe try and a large underground mine there as well. Okay, so again, working with industries and dodgy terrain, things are always going to look horrific before they start to look good. But a little bit of softening terrain over the entire area is going to help everyone settle in a little bit more. Okay, and then let's come back into our road now. Let's maybe go for, I think we'll stick to dirt whilst we're in the ore quarry itself, and then as we meander down the hill, we'll move into something a little more concrete, if you'll excuse the pun. So although I don't want a vast amount of processing here, I think I'm happy to include at least one of the 4 options. And I think the fiberglass plant is going to be the most appropriate, almost as though some sort of main admin or administration sort of area, if you like. Okay, so we'll bring this out on its other road. And then let's go for the fiberglass plant to sit here. We'll probably move over just a touch with move it, and then again, softening is going to be handy. Maybe sort of consider an orientation here. I think an angle might be slightly more appropriate, so again we can just amend our road frame. So go in and hold that now, and again there's detailing and decoration opportunities as we come outside here. Then I think lastly we'll place in a raw mineral storage if we can. Again, terrain and move elevations are going to be important here for getting everyone to sit sensibly. But this is just going to store ore, which will help keep the fiberglass plant fed from a processing and industries DLC point of view. Okay, so we have this up here. So this is it, right? This is the extent of what I'm talking about. And again, during our detailing time lapse, lots of the probably vanilla rocks will be blending in quite nicely here, alongside some of the workshop ones that we do have. We bring some of these, and again, overgrowth and detailing, and perhaps some of the chunkier cliff face assets to develop some sort of false cliff face action to sit up here as well. Bring that road network back down now, and again, we can probably start to get on board with some snakier patterns as we meander down the hill with the correct road. There we go. We'll of course use network multi-tool to slope everyone out and make sure everyone's happy and friendly with their gradients. Of course, don't want to trigger the gradient police today. Not on a Friday of all days. And then we'll come onto our road guideline with a curve tool, and then we can just hook that in. That's going to be wonderful. Let's come into network multi-tool now. Let's grab the slope function. We'll go from the top to the bottom. That's going to be slightly okay, I think. I think I'm alright with it. Again, just a little bit of softening now. We'll take the sting out of any nastiness that comes from using the mods. Very nice. So a little industrial road, again to be detailed with lots of nature reserve fencing and rocks, and a little bit of a combination of an old dying gold mine that is tethered into the town. And that's going to sit really nicely up on the hill at night time as well, isn't it? With that kind of glow. Huge fan of that. Huge fan. However, guys, that does feel like a good place for a detailing time lapse. We have the bulk of the build in now. Like I mentioned, it is a fairly small build today, but just extremely hyper detailed. So we're going to come in and carry on introducing the trailer and low-level university content creator assets into this area just to help bring in the population into the town. Continue to add lots of cracked roads and scuffed up dirty sandy decals across the entire road network, at least the tarmac ones, just so we can see this kind of old rural spice area coming in now. If you're going to take this shot as your spice sample, bring this palette through the rest of the area. Continue to add in some more appropriate looking commercial and industrial assets into the main street here to continually complement this sort of build. Lots of industrial detailing up here, including but not limited to fences and overgrowth, just to help this sit in a little bit more naturally, and definitely bring in some chunky rock assets around the back end of the crane, so it kind of looks as though it's digging out some actual minerals. And then the natural Ilos flora palette to come back through and tie everything in where we've shaved away, and then also detail our little intersection marking roundabouts with some lighting, because these will be pretty dark at the minute, and some highway art and general overgrowth for the new rural interchange. Otherwise, let's detail Ilos' first rural build, and we'll be right back. Okay guys, that is going to do it for today. I'd like to thank you all so much for watching. If you've enjoyed the video, likes, comments and shares below really do help me out. Equally as much if you haven't enjoyed it, please feel free to leave a dislike as well. But really interesting putting these things together, and very unkept, overgrown, broken, dilapidated, just generally knackered is the vibe that is kind of appropriate here, and I think I've managed to pull it off. There was an absolute ton of detailing, so do hang around for the rest of the outro charge and check this thing out at night time as it sits super far away from the Mars grid. You guys would have seen it in the opening intro anyway. But some lovely rural nighttime cinematics coming up. Otherwise I will shut up and I will leave it there. Let's thank you all so much for watching, and as always, enjoy the rest of your day.